Ahoy, Salty Dogs. My name is Lenscap, and welcome back to Project Titan. In today's episode, I've got a little bit of catching up to do. I've got some things to show you guys, and some ideas to get from you, and share with you, and blah, 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 blah. Let's get started with looking at ships. So, I've been working on a couple of things. If you caught my live stream last weekend, then you've already seen this ship. If you didn't catch my live stream last weekend, we're going to look at this ship right now because it's in a good place, but I'm not really happy with a couple of things, so let's talk about that stuff real quick. So first of all, this is one of the first ships I've ever done outside in. Generally, when I build my ships, I go inside out, right? I start with the internals, and then I build around that. And, yeah, look at this monster. It's pretty cool, huh? We'll talk about it in a second. So, usually I start with the internals, and I figure out what rooms I want and where I want them, and then build a kind of, on that. So this ship, I decided to take a completely different approach, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna put blocks down until I get a shape I like, and, boy, do I like this. This is amazing. So, last time we met, we built these big, beautiful engines. That was the name of the episode, and we did some engines. This time, I've added a ship to one, and I'm starting a ship on the second. And I want to tell you about this ship and why we're building a second one instead of finishing this one. Because as you can see, there's a lot of empty space. It's not finished. Now, this ship, first of all, looks pretty cool. I think it looks cool, and I'm happy with where it started. But I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this ship for a couple of reasons. But let's kind of take a look at the ship while we're talking about those reasons. So I'm inspired right now. I have this vision of how I want my ship to look. And I'm feeling I've got a couple of pieces of reference material and some sources that I'm using to design this. So my first thought was motorcycle engine. I want parts. I want you to be able to look in it and see things. I want components jumbled together. I want like a motorcycle engine. Like if you look at an engine of a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, you can see all these moving things and layers on layers on layers of detail, and it's all very functional, so that's what I'm going for. The second piece is the gun on top, and I actually modeled this off of the plasma rifle from Fallout 4. Roughly. It's not exactly that, but that's where I got the idea for the shape of it. And I was thinking, how cool would it be to have a motorcycle engine with a giant gun strapped to the top? So that's what this ship is. I like a lot of pieces of it. It's coming along pretty well as far as like the layering and the interest and the bits plugged into places. Wires running all over the place, different components. You can tell like this is one thing and this is another thing and this is another thing, and they're all kind of connected with these wires that are kind of snaking throughout, and I really like that. The ship is too small. So that's my problem with this one. There's not any room because of all of the detail that I'm putting into this. There's no room inside of it for interiors. Like, look how small this is. If we wanted a crew of 8 people, there's no way we could fit 8 people inside of this. It's just way too small. And like this area here would have to be full of systems and stuff, and so there's no room for like actually interiors. So that's why we're taking this concept and applying it to this other ship over here. But I want to look at a couple details on this ship first, and then we'll go look at the other one, some of the progress I've made on it. Now, I haven't worked on anything that you guys haven't seen, either in this video, you're going to see it now, or if you saw my live stream, you saw it there. So we're going to work on some of this together today, and kind of this episode is going to function as a recap of things that have transpired elsewhere in my StarMade world, in my StarMade whatever. Let's just get to it. I really like this spinning detail, this clutch thing, inspired by a motorcycle clutch, and I think that is cool. I really like the way the frame, this like light gray bit, so this is like if you imagine a frame that holds everything together. I like the way the frame kind of holds the clutch in place and connects everything up to everything else. We have these like exhaust pipes that snake through the frame. I really like the exhaust pipes. I wasn't sure how to cap the exhaust pipes, so I put these ridiculous like ports on the end, and then I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. What if I did smog coming out of them? And then I liked it, so I left it. But it was kind of a joke, and then it grew on me, and I really like it now. So that worked. Another issue that I have with this ship is there's no door. There's not even really a place for a door. It just can't work with the way the ship is currently. Like, maybe we could put a door in this space or in this space. I mean, that's possible. Another thing we have to consider is, where do the sails go? Do we even need sails? This ship actually, to me, it feels like it stands on its own without the sails, but it's kind of my thing, you know? I don't want to just abandon the sails, so I'm not really sure what to do about that either. But anyway, we've used this project as a proof of concept and started on this other project. So let's find it and jump into it real quick. And I'll show you the work we've done on this. Now, this ship doesn't have a lot of work that's taken place just yet. Mostly it's the engine and the frame. I started putting in the clutch and the clutch box. I don't know what it's really called on a real motorcycle. But I don't like this as much, to be honest. This like fan that I have in here is not nearly as good as the fan we have on the smaller ship. And I think that's really because it's bigger. The ship needs it to be bigger, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work the same way. It doesn't look as good. So what we might do is have two smaller ones. I might completely change this. I was thinking, so I definitely want it to spin, but I was thinking maybe instead of the fan like this, what if we did, here, let's get rid of the grill bits, or the grate, or whatever it's called, the grill part, so we can actually see in here. I was thinking it would be cool to have the spinny bits be something different. So maybe instead of doing a fan, let's see, what blocks was I using? Let's just put some blocks on the bar, and we'll start throwing some ideas around. I need this, and this, and this, and I was working with black as well, and I think standard, and that's good for now. So what if we did something like... Of course, this will be on a different entity, so it spins. But instead of having, like, the fan option, what if we did some crazy checker pattern, and that spun? Yeah, see, I kind of wanted them not touching, and I don't really have the room for that in this ship, so in this kind of thing here. So I'm not sure... I'm not quite clear on what I want here just yet. What we could do is make this thicker. Whoops. We could make this thicker so that we still get the 3x3 kind of circle like we have on that ship. And then we can do the little fan inside. Not quite sure what I want to do about that yet. But so this is where this is what I've got so far on this ship. We'll revisit this when I can play with symmetry and I'm thinking more clearly. But I like the way the frame is coming so far, and on this one I've actually built these little clamp things to hold the engine actually onto the frame. On this one, it's just kind of butted up against it, and it almost feels like an afterthought. If we fly over here, we can kind of take a look at it. Like, it works, it flows together, it's cohesive, but you can tell it's a separate thing. And I kind of want to integrate it into the ship better as we go. I also had another idea that I thought would be cool, is what if we put a docking bay right here for a shuttle? I don't know if a shuttle will fit in its current state, but that would be kind of an interesting thought. I literally just thought of that, though, so it may not happen. So that's where we stand. I think I'm going to do... Oh, here's a cool detail I thought was cool. This box, just to quit, just so it's not a completely flat something, I added these, like, indentions, and I'm using wedges to give it a slope, and I think that works out really cool. It's hard to get a good angle of what it looks like, but I think it looks cool. That's me personally. One concern I have with this ship right now is that the core is way up here, and that's going to be a huge ship. We might need to move it back some. Now, I can't really move the core itself, so excuse me. If I do that, if I do that, I'll have to cut everything we've built and move it, paste it forward, which isn't too much of a problem. That's definitely doable. I'm just not ready to make that decision yet. We might even be able to extend the front of the ship far enough to cover this. I want this to be a big ship, right? This is our first big ship in our fleet. So if this is a fighter, which this is a huge fighter, by the way, compared to what other people have built. But if this is a fighter and this is a frigate, I guess this is a destroyer. So we're getting bigger for sure with our ships and the utility of them. Yeah, it looks cool. I think this is going to be a really cool ship. And I think this is going to make some waves in our build style. So here's the thing, though. All of the ships so far, if we hop out of this one and we go back into one of the older ships, like the Prowler here, they all are kind of based on this same design, right? They all have this same kind of cockpit and interior kind of shape. They all have this very similar shape and style to them. And the sails and everything. And then this ship and the one we're working on now don't have any of those elements. They're so completely removed that, like, but to me it still feels like part of the same fleet, because they do have similar elements, like the gun. Where can we see it? The gun on this ship, for example, this gun, it's very, very similar to this one. So they have similar shared elements, and I think they can cohesively be part of the same fleet, but they aren't. They're definitely removed from each other in a large way. And I think that's reasonable given the size difference between the ships and the utilitarian difference between the ships. But sails, we gotta make a decision, first of all. And I feel like this is too big of a decision for me to make on my own. Do we keep the sails on the capital class ships, on the bigger ships? Do we keep the sails? Because that very, very quickly becomes very, very ridiculous. They become so just gigantic. And I personally... Here, let me show you this. I have a blueprint of this ship. I put some sails on it. And I don't like them. Okay? I like the sails, but I don't like them on this ship. So here was my first concept for sails for this guy. And I don't like it. To me, they're too small. They don't, like, proportionally fit with the size of the ship. And while they're a neat shape and an interesting position, I don't feel like they fit. Something is weird about them, and I don't like this. I don't like it. I like it better without them. But I want your thoughts. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do the bigger ships in our fleet, if we go for this kind of motorcycle engine build style for the larger ships, do they even need the sails? If they do, how do we put the sails on? How can we engineer these ships so that a sail makes sense? Because on this guy, I don't think it does. I don't want to discount the idea of sails, though, on the bigger ships. So I wanted to try a couple of things. We have an X on one of our other ships, the Pickpocket, I think, the mining vessel. So I wanted to try the X. That's okay. This sail in the front is an interesting thought as well. I like that. If we do the sails, I think I'll keep something there. I'm not sure I exactly adore the execution of this one. It just doesn't fit the same shape as the sails. But I do like it. I do think it's very interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about these sails, though. What we might do is elongate the top ones and shorten the bottom ones a little bit. That could kind of resolve my frustrations with these sails. I still am of the mindset, I still am looking at this thinking the sails they kind of take away from the ship more than they add. And that's certainly not the goal here. We don't want sails just to have sails. We want sails because they make the ship better. You know what I mean? So just having sails for the sake of sails doesn't answer our quandary, doesn't resolve our problem. We need to have them for the right reason. I'm going to fiddle with this a little bit further, maybe refine this idea a little bit more, and see if we can get something we like. Alright, I cleaned up this sail on the front a little bit to kind of give it a less of to make it more consistent with the other sail designs. And I like this better. It needs a skull right here for sure. But skulls are always last. We gotta do the other sails first. The skull's kind of like the, you sign your paintings. You don't sign them until you're finished, right? Anyway, it's an art thing, I guess. I did these sails in 10 block increments. I removed 10 from the bottom and added 10 to the top. Yeah, it didn't really have the effect I wanted. The ones on the bottom look puny, and the ones on the top look too big. That didn't really work for me. Maybe the X thing isn't the right way to go on this ship. I want to try one more sail configuration. I really like this one, and it makes me want to add sails, though. So I'm not quite sure. I want to try one more thing. I'm going to remove the X and try something different. Let me know what you guys think, though. Do you like the X? Let's wait until we see the other part before you leave a comment, though. Sometimes you have to try a bunch of different things before you come to the conclusion that the first thing you ever thought to do was the best. I think this is the best. It's exactly like the sails on the other ships. And I think trying to do something fancy with crosses or with X's or just doesn't really suit this ship. It works great for the miner that we have, but I think for this ship, just the regular old sail, I like the default one that we have, is the best. We've got this little bit of interest because the thing in the front, oh look, there's pirates, let's kill them. That was easy. Hooray for admin, yes! I think this is the best. I think this is the best. I actually like this. Just the regular vertical sails. Now, there's some polishing, obviously, that needs to be done. We don't have wedges. We don't have the gaps between the sails and the mast. So there's still some cleaning to do. But I think we found the winner. If we're gonna do sails on this ship, this is how we should do it. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think of the ships? What do you think of the sails on the ships? Should we have sails? If so, which sails did you like the best? Let me know. Leave your feedback in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned.